This is the Matco MG258 MIG welding system, capable of MIG, TIG, and stick welding applications up to 250 amps. This machine operates on a single phase 230 volt power supply and is again capable of MIG, TIG, and stick up to 250 amps. What's unique about this machine is this is a double pulse MIG welding system. We'll go over that in a minute. But of particular interest are the body shops doing certified and OEM repairs. This machine features 3 wire feed cabinets and 3 independent MIG torches for silicone, bronze, aluminum, and steel MIG welding applications. So we come around the welder. Real quickly, we have color-coded torches. The red torch will signify our silicone bronze wire. Our blue is for aluminum, and our green is for steel. As we go around to the other side of the welder, this machine also does feature a TIG torch for doing DC TIG applications for steel or stainless steel TIG, and does come with a stick electrode holder for doing stick welding applications as well. You also get a nice goodie box with some extra consumables, so additional drive rolls, additional contact tips, and parts and pieces for after the sale. You'll also receive a 85-page user manual to reference as you work with this machine. Steel side is going to sit on the right side of the welder. I'll show you the cabinets in a moment, but this is our steel side cabinet, and all of the cabinets are identical, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So this machine does come with casters and gas supports. However, those will need to be installed after the purchase of this machine, so it does not come with the casters already on the machine. You'll have to put them on. And does feature twin cylinder supports for 2 different types of gas, and also includes 2 gas regulators and 2 gas regulator hoses. As you can see on the back of the machine, we have torch number 3 for a mixed gas with a port, and then below that another port for torch 0, 1, and 2, and in parentheses is argon. It's important to note that steel MIG welding applications will take a mixed gas and will be plugged into this torch 3 port, and 100% argon will be plugged in to torch 0, 1, and 2 port. And we'll talk about how you can change those drives. It'll choose the appropriate gas for the application. Now, as we come over here, as we mentioned, door number 1 is for silicone bronze or MIG brazing. Inside door number 1 is going to be all your pertinent information. Your voltage and wire speed settings for manual MIG, your display functions and what those mean, your MIG torch consumables as replacement parts, so you know where those are, and you'll also get your synergic parameters and your pulse, double and single pulse synergic parameters. You can see inside this cabinet that we have a large wire feed motor and a double drive roll system. So traditional MIG welders are going to have a top and a bottom drive roll. This particular welder features a double drive roll system. That's really important when we're pushing thin wires like silicone bronze wire or aluminum wire to help them feed down the torch. So cabinet 1 is for silicone bronze red torch. Right below it is aluminum, and this will be cabinet number 2, torch blue torch. Again, you can see everything's identical. And then on the other side, as we mentioned, is steel. It's also nice to note that this welder does come with a starter spool of each of the 3 types of wire. That'll be packed in the box after your purchase. So we'll go ahead and get this machine zoomed in on the menu here and walk through the output selectors and some of the different modes and walk you through that. We don't have the ground clamp connected right now, but you can see our 3 Euro torch connections are set up for SI bronze red, down below aluminum blue, and green, number 3 for steel. Now, our outputs select, and here's our on-off switch, so it's just a simple on and off. Our outputs select, you can see 0, 1, 2, and 3. So we have to tell the welder where we're trying to go before we go into that mode of welding. So as an example, 1 is silicone bronze. If we wanted to weld aluminum, we'd go over to output 2, and steel we go to output 3. Now 0 is dedicated for TIG or stick applications. On all of the MIG welding applications, you can see we do have a positive and a negative port here. We want the ground clamp plugged into negative if you're doing any MIG welding applications. So the Euroconnect cables, always suggest get them nice and tight by hand as we're going through this and feeding the wire through. So we know our output selector. We can do silicone, bronze, aluminum, steel. These are our welding modes, located right to the left of the on-off switch. And this is going to tell me, this little hand, every time I press it's going to go into a different welding mode. So the first mode we see at the top of the screen is single pulse Synergic. If we press the hand, now we're in double pulse Synergic. The next time we press the hand, we're in manual mode. Now I can do whatever I want to the wire and to the heat manually. If I hit the hand one more time, I'm in Synergic no pulse. We'll talk about Synergic, but Synergic essentially is a little bit of help for your weld. It's a smart program that based on what you tell the welder you have, the welder will give you a starting output for heat and a starting output for wire based on everything that you tell it that you have. So really neat feature. These Synergic programs are a lot of fun. As you move down, we have a stick welding mode, and then we have TIG mode on the bottom. And if we were to press that hand one more time, we're going to toggle back up to single pulse. Below our welding modes are our trigger selections. So 2T trigger, very simply, it's going to be down trigger is on, let go of the trigger is off. That's just traditional 2T trigger. Now if I go to the second welding mode, this is called a latching trigger or a 4T trigger. And that's going to mean when I press the trigger the first time, it's going to start my weld. When I let go, I'm still welding. So for a long weld, or if you have some gloves on where you don't want to hold that trigger down all the time, now you're welding a nice line, and then I'm going to have to push it down again and let go to turn it off. So that's what's considered a 4T trigger. If we go down one more time in the hand, we have this is a special 4T trigger. And the manual is going to go through some of those different customization options, or contact us for more information. But we can manipulate some things within that 4T trigger. As an example, starting hot start and a cool finish. So if we're trying to do a specific application, we can make the welder do some pretty fun things with a special 4T trigger. Then the last mode is what's called a spot mode. And we can alter the time from 0 to 10 seconds. But basically you're going to hold the trigger on, and when it's done with its timer, the welder will stop operating. So not a ton of applications in this mode, but it is something we want to make you aware of. 2T trigger is where I would get started to get going. And we also have a function button here. We'll talk about that in a second. That's going to take us out of welding mode and into some functions behind the scenes. We have a manual gas purge. So let's say you have too much gas in your regulator. You can purge that gas by pushing or holding down the gas purge. We have manual wire feed. So if you're trying to put wire through your torch cable for the first time, you can hold the manual wire feed rather than having to hold the torch trigger. We also have a job and a folder here. We can save up to 100 jobs in this folder based on some parameters that we like. We can lock those in, save them to a folder, and recall them at a later time. As we move to the left of the machine, we have two windows and two knobs. We'll kind of talk about what each of those do and what you're seeing here. So on the left side knob, you're seeing V stands for voltage. That's going to be your heat. Every time I click down this left stick, it's going to give me another mode that lights up and showing me something different. So my P is going to light up next, and P stands for program, or my Synergic program. And we'll show you how to get to that and do an example of that in a minute. If I hit that button again, this is my arc length. So I can adjust my arc length on the fly from a positive 10 to a negative 10 by simply turning the knob back and forth. As 0 being the baseline, I can go positive or negative for arc length. And I also have what's called inductance, or the penetration of my weld, and that's on a scale of from 0 to 10. So you can see how to adjust that by turning the knob and then pressing down to get to the different modes. Now my right parameters right now are showing A for amps. If I click down the right stick, this is my wire feed speed, and this is in inches per minute. And then lastly, I have material thickness, and this is measured in millimeters. I can then adjust those accordingly. So as an example, we're probably now going to go through some of the functions so you know what some of those can do. So let's say right now we're in single pulse, 2T trigger. Let's see what's behind the scenes we can adjust. we're gonna hit the FX button. You can see that lights up. And now we have a display code right here on the left, above the left stick. We're gonna come in cabinet door number 1, or we're gonna know because we read our manual, and we'll say PRG. What does that mean? Well, inside cabinet door number 1, I see PRG, and then I see that that stands for pre-gas. So we can adjust the amount of time or delay that we have in our weld by adjusting this from 0 seconds up to 5 seconds of delay. Specifically of interest when we're welding aluminum, we want to get some gas on the weld before the weld actually starts. Now, if I want to see what other options are available to me, I can just turn this left stick, and now I see a POG. Well, that stands for post-gas. So I can change the amount of time the gas comes out after the weld from 0 to 10 seconds. And then finally, we have burn back, or what's considered to be a slow roll at the end, or stick out after the weld. It's going to be outside of the nozzle, and I can change that burn back setting from a 0 to a 10 as well. So really, in single pulse, these are the options available to you: pre-gas, post-gas, burn back. You can see if I turn it to the right, I don't get anything else. So that's all that's unlocked, but based on the mode that I'm in, I'm going to have access to more or less functions. So as an example, let's go to double pulse. I have my pre-gas, I have my post-gas, I have my burn back. As I keep going to the right, I have a double pulse current, I have a double pulse frequency. So there's a lot of extra customization because we're in double pulse now instead of single pulse. So again, go through the user manual and learn more about some of these extra customization. This video is going to go through general orientation and setup for the machine. So as an example, once I'm done making my modifications and I'm ready to go back into a welding mode, I'm going to hit that FX button one more time. Light turns off, and now you can see I'm showing volts and amps. Now, let's go ahead and get a starter program. So I'm going to come back up to single pulse just to get started. I'm in 2T trigger, and let's get this machine set up and ready to go for an aluminum MIG weld on a 1mm thickness panel. So I'm going to come over to the welder. First thing I need to do is tell it where I want to go. I want to go to output select number 2. Blue for aluminum. 2 is going to be pulling from my dedicated aluminum cabinet. I'm ready to go there. The next thing I want to do is pick my program, my Synergic or Smart program. So I'm going to come inside the door over here, and we're going to tell the welder the ingredients of what we're trying to put in the weld. So as an example, we have AL-MG wire. We have a 1.2mm thickness because the machine is going to ship with a 1.2mm thickness of wire, and we're running 100% argon gas. So we come over here on our chart, and these are our pulse programs, these are our non-pulse programs. I want program number 4. So I'm going to come over here, okay, I need P4, close the door. I'm going to hit this left stick because I'm showing voltage right now, and I see P6. I don't want P6. You can see I have 15 pulse programs. I want P4. So I'm going to come down to P4, and I'm ready to go there. So now the machine knows the program what I'm trying to put in the weld. The last thing I need to do is tell the welder the material thickness of what I'm trying to weld to. So I'm going to come over here until I see material thickness highlighted, and I'm at 1.8. I want to move that down to a 1.0. So as an example, there's going to be customization after the fact, but this is a good ballpark of getting you dialed in for a 1mm thickness weld on an aluminum panel and single pulse setting. Now, let's say I'm running this, and now you can see after a short delay, my material thickness is not highlighted anymore. It's going to default back to amps. If I go on the program, if I sit here for a few seconds, that's going to go back over to volts. So it's always going to show me the most relevant information. Now, let's say I don't like 34 amps and I'm welding. I mean, I want a little bit more heat. I'm going to turn that heat up, and I can see I'm adjusting my amps. But what Synergic is doing is everything's working together. As I adjust my amps, my volts are also increasing as well. And consequently, if I adjust my wire, you can also see my heat is going up or down respectively. So Synergic programs, everything works together, and that's just an example showing you how I can fine tune after the weld, or at least my starting point, to get that dialed in exactly where I want it. So again, this is the Matco MG258 double pulse MIG welding system capable of MIG, TIG, and stick up to 250 amps of output power.